I just had this hatred of men, and you know, I became the radical lesbian feminist. We're going to take over the world. You better like who I am or get out of my way. And that really wasn't who I was, because by nature I'm a pretty mild-mannered person. But I was just trying to find my identity. So I tried looking in a lot of different places. I was also developing this addiction to alcohol and this addiction to sleeping pills and pain pills and different things that I could get my psychiatrist to give me. In fact, I got to a point where I would go to college classes, you know, with a bourbon and Coke in my hand and sit in the front, and was really delusional, I suppose, because I thought nobody noticed, but I'm sure that they did. And then at one point, I had a counselor suggest that maybe I should try AA. And there was one lady in particular. She sort of became an unofficial leader of some of the younger women. And she would sort of take us under her wing, and I completely looked up to her because she had been sober for 10 years. And she was very sophisticated. She knew a lot about literature and history and all these things, and I always had this hunger for knowledge. But she would also talk about, you know, things like receiving messages from her deceased brother, and getting messages from the dead, and a lot of different things like that. And she would do hypnosis. We sat down in her office in her basement. At one point, it was just, I was alone with her, and she began to do some hocus pocus hypnosis kind of stuff, and I literally felt some kind of cold something other. I don't know, it was a feeling, it was a force, and I literally could feel it coming from the left side. I could still remember. It was like something taking over me, and it's like at that point I had no will to stop it. It was like there was nothing in me that could disagree with what she said. There was nothing in me that could stop, because I had given her power over my life. And that's when the darkness began. That's when my extreme sickness, I mean, within 2 weeks I was jaundiced. I was having trouble seeing. I was having trouble hearing. I could not remember things from one moment to another. And so I would literally like just lie on my bed with my arms underneath me and could hardly move. I mean, I was just, it had taken over. And I can remember being at a place where I just wished I could go back to those days of suicidal thoughts and drug and alcohol rehabs, because they seemed like a heyday. That was an easy time compared to this literal torment that I lived with in my mind. One day, my aunt came to town. She was the aunt that we always thought was a little different, the one that I never would have listened to before. But as I sat in one of my other aunt's living rooms, she looked right into my eyes, and at this point I was very physically ill. I mean, life had taken its toll. Everything I'd been involved in had taken its toll, and she looked right at me and she said, "I'm really concerned about your health, but I'm more concerned about your soul." And the moment she said that, it's like it pierced through me. Her words pierced me. There was a time I never would have listened to that, but I was so desperate. And when she began to share the gospel and share her experiences of how Jesus had been real in her life, suddenly it's like my eyes were opened and my heart was opened, thinking, you mean this Jesus thing that I've been telling everybody is a big hoax could actually be real? And to the best of my ability, I began to pray, you know, and just kind of, it's like, God, if you're real, you know, I'm open. Finally, I was invited to a women's prayer meeting that took place in a courthouse building. And I didn't know anything about worshiping God, but these women were just coming together to study the Bible, to pray. So I stood with them, and they began to close their eyes and raise their hands, and I didn't know anything about that, but I thought, hey, I'm going to try this, you know, and I did. And suddenly I just felt the real power and presence of God, you know, and it was like fire and electricity just shooting through my body. And I literally felt like there was this war going on between this, you know, this force of darkness, this demonic force, and the power of God and the Holy Spirit. And what was amazing was I was very aware of this, And one would think it would almost be a frightening experience, but I wasn't frightened at all. It was almost like, this is really cool. This is almost like a sci-fi movie. But something's happening here, and I know that the God of the universe has stepped on the scene. And it was really an instantaneous deliverance for me. I am free from alcohol, from drug addiction, from pills. I'm now married. I have a husband. I have 2 sons, and we all serve the Lord together.
How great the love of Jesus Christ. Upon the cross of Calvary, the blood was shed that pardons me. No longer